Yeah, I'll move back. And we are live with our first podcast in a long while. And today we are going to be discussing the judicial system and how money controls us.
Well, the judicial system probably was the hole in the Constitution. And it has to do with the fact that the people do not have a say, hardly, except at the state level or the local level. At the federal level, they have really no they just, it's appointed. And when the Democrats are in, they appoint Democratic judicial. And when the Republicans in, they do the Republican side of things. And bias has become a word in this country that has not only been overlooked due to the pitting somebody against another somebody, and the difference is that one of them's got 4 buttons on their shirt and the other one's only got 3. And it's not a good situation for such a petty situation like that to be more in charge of what the heck's going on than the people. And you have a very biased press who, when a judge from the 9th, which I believe is the San Francisco area, which liberals go to, and then there's the judicial system down here. I really can't tell you that I'm going to be right on whether it's 5 or whether it's 11. Those are the 2 numbers that come in my head, but I'm not factual on that. And the Republicans send theirs there. And that's really just not the way the judicial system was meant to. Well, there are very few Solomons that can have been a Solomon since Solomon was not with us. There are some that have done remarkable work and have done things like across the aisle, where they're taking the law and going by the law. They're not taking the case and going by who's buying the case now. And that's become the hole, if you will, in the wall. You have a Supreme Court of 7 people. And, it's always described as 3 liberals and 4 conservatives. I don't recall that being the major part of the conversation in the 50s and 60s and 70s. You had some terrific judges during that particular time. And it's not that we hadn't had some wonderful judges in the last 20 or 30 years, but I don't believe that they outnumber the judges that have used politics to determine a case. And that's the reason I said that's the hole in the Constitution. And the country, seems to be from, I don't know, the dishonest media. I don't know whether I think they're dishonest. Let me say that. I think they're dishonest just simply because they can't help themselves. And that is also a reason that we're having trouble in that area. But there's no Dwight D. Eisenhower and Tip O'Neill, who, if I'm not, this may not be factual, but I believe it to be factual, had dinner every night and went over what had gone over that day in the Congress and decided how to go about framing something that would help the entire American, landscape. There was a big crossing of the aisle because people were interested in doing the right thing for the country. We don't have that feeling anymore.
We don't.
It's what I can do. What can I do for myself? Now it's okay, as my mother used to tell me, to be selfish for 15 minutes out of the day. This is when she was in her 30s and I was in my late teenage years. I had probably just gotten my driver's license, and she just talked to me about things concerning the judiciary of the country, and had a very high opinion of the amount of work that the Congress was doing to help each other build what was supposed to be the contact between the citizen, the judicial system, the Congress, House and the Senate, and the president. So that's not happening anymore.
No, it's not.
It's just not happening anymore. What's in it for me? Not what's in it for the country. And until that changes, we're going to have the same system. Unfortunately, that we've been dealing with during my 80 years of being here. I think 78 or 79 the last time I did a podcast. And I will run this by you, but I do not want you to take this as my trying to brag. I hate braggarts. When I was a little runt, and I mean runt, I probably didn't weigh 70 pounds when I was in the 9th grade in Winona High School in Winona, Mississippi. I weighed 95 when I graduated from the 12th grade. I was Porky Pig. So we all had to write papers because we had the best social studies and history teacher in the state of Mississippi. Now, you can think the educational system in the state of Mississippi, whatever you want about it, but the school that I was in was the best school in Mississippi. It won that every year. We didn't have the rebel rousing in any of the schools hardly in the 50s in anywhere in the United States. I mean, we didn't have all this people busting into schools, and because they got mistreated in their mind, they shoot 9 people. I mean, that's ridiculous. And they're neglecting the mental health issue more than anything.
And we've talked about that a lot on our podcasts.
Well, the mental health problem has only gotten worse, not better.
Oh yeah.
So we'll put it in here in a minute. But to me, when I wrote a paper about what do you think the future of America is going to be about, my 3 answers were water, politics, and housing for the poor. Do not think that I'm one of these radicals. I'm not a radical. The only thing I'm radical about is being able to play golf 3 days a week. I'm radical about that. So my retort to this, I got asked, what am I talking about? And this was at a statewide forum, and I just said, I believe we should take and identify the people who are not as fortunate as the people who are fortunate, and build them housing, and put in the housing a television, there was no microwaves at that time. I would have said microwave, but put in a small kitchen, a refrigerator, a telephone line, and a TV, and let them rent this for next to nothing, or let them rent it for nothing. So that's look what's happened. I mean, I'm not trying to take, toot my horn. I'm just telling you it sounded logical then, and it sounds more logical now. And here I am in Brunswick, Georgia, and they are building these little houses for the poor and indigent as fast as they can get them up. And I'm hoping that is going to change the window that we look out. People with money, for the most part, I don't know. Again, I just don't believe everybody that's poor is poor, and I don't believe everybody that's rich is necessarily rich enough to do everything that they might want to do. But I think that the rich have done a wonderful job. They've built hospitals. They've built baseball fields. They've built hiking trails. They've built museums. They've built zoos. They have turned their money into something of a permanency, which, maybe that's a little egotistical. I choose to believe it's just people wanting to do things while they're here and while they have the money to do it with. Now, what all does this have to do with the judicial system? I'm going to tie it in for you here if I can. And you can question this. Questions are good unless they're stupid. And stupid you can't fix, so I can't fix that. But I believe that the judiciary has been allowing people who have done very serious things, who are said to be protected by I don't know who, and I don't know where, and I don't know when. And I know that what is on second base, and I know who is on first, but I don't know who's on third. So what I'm getting at is if you tie this into the judicial system, nothing is right or wrong anymore. Nothing. Not one thing is right or wrong anymore. People used to know what was wrong, and people used to know what was right. Now there is no distinction. And because of that has led to something that's not new. It's not new. This is thousands of years old. What I'm fixing to say is thousands of years old. But it's turned the system into mostly a power and money organization. And of course, that leads to politics, which we've already covered. it's the people that formed this United States of America just they knocked the ball out of the park. I am absolutely convinced that the smartest people on this planet could not write a document like that today. I don't believe they could do that because there's not a lot of accommodation. There's not a sense of working together. The egos are just unbelievable. They have reached heights. I don't want to get there. I don't want to have to go get that high. Just leave me where I am. If I went to apply for a job, it'd be as a janitor at Walmart. And I'd be sitting there buying stock every time I got paid. And if I left after 30 years, I'd be a multi-millionaire just having their stock. So don't tell me that I've got to be, a money-hungry, egotistical maniac. I just contend that your judicial system has got to be somewhat cleaned up because it's just all politics. It has become right. There's nothing different between right and wrong, which has led to what I said, power and money. And that's just not the way the Constitution set itself up. But because it did not address the judicial situation of making the judicial system be accountable to the people, which at the federal level they're not. And those of you in a state are probably like me. We elect our judges down here, but there's one little situation about that. How many of you have gone to the voting polls and had anybody running against any of the 3 Supreme Court justices who are up for election this year? I dare say that it may be 0. It couldn't be 15. I may be wrong about that, and it won't be the first time. Won't be the first time. And so, I'm not sure that I have a lot of faith in the judicial system. I don't know that I don't. I just don't know that I do. I mean, I don't know how to go into that question. I know half the judges in the county that I live in here in Georgia. I've played golf with a bunch of them. They all, seem to be very honest. But I think in a small community like this, that there has to be a little more honesty. I wouldn't know what to tell you about living in Atlanta, although I lived there for 20 years. I just couldn't tell you anymore about that. And I think that, I don't have a concrete plan of how to reorganize the judicial system because I'm by myself and I'm just frankly, as smart as I might be or as dumb as I might be, I'm in either case, I probably could help, but there's no way you could expect me to write up a whole new thing. It's, it's, I'm not saying it's not basic. You have to change the scenario. I remember years ago when Robert Bork was had been nominated. I don't remember the president. And the other party, whoever was nominating him, just absolutely ate him up for lunch. And he would have probably been the most honest person that they could have picked out of all those nominees, which is probably why he didn't get put in. You know, that's another indictment. And that is that honesty is becoming a verb. Is honesty a verb or what?
I don't think it's a verb.
Well, that's why. That's the first thing that came to my mind. And since I've done my last podcast with my grandson, something has transformed the way that I have gone about doing things. And if this will help anybody out there, I'm glad I will have said it. I have really learned the hard way that I am unable to laugh and think at the same time. So I have developed I just laugh persona. I find that it is contagious. I find that it is something sorely needed on the complete landscape of this country. The reason the judicial system has been having trouble for the last 30 or 35 years is because of the biased media. They have decided that they are only for one party. They are only for one ism, and it ain't capitalism. And because of that, you see whatever group of the population, because I'm not smart enough to know what the number would be, but I just believe that the media has been used as a whipping boy to get all of the information, most of which is probably false, to the masses. Unfortunately, the people who have not been able to raise themselves up out of the situation they're in. That's why I think they should build more of these little houses, because they're inexpensive, and I don't believe that they would suffer like they're suffering now. And this is why this is such a tough subject. I'm not going to know these names, but I do know that 4, 5, 6, 7, I don't know, years back, this illegal immigrant just walked down the street of San Francisco and shot this young woman. I don't remember her name either, but I know I believe they named a bill after her. And this guy basically got away with it, because God forbid we hurt the feelings of an illegal immigrant, for God's sakes. We hurting those people's feelings is horrible. Well, I wish that they looked at me, the tax-paying citizen, who's part of getting all the bills like you are, they wouldn't treat me like that. So we have some serious holes in the judicial system that need to be fixed, and need to be fixed quickly. And I don't mean more quickly. I don't mean fast quickly, because you can't change something like that in a week. But somehow this has got to change. And I'm not smart enough to give you all the answers, but I am smart enough to know that I don't know whether street smarts is equal to law degrees. I don't know that. I don't know that, and I don't not know that. There are a lot of people. Bill Gates, for instance, he didn't finish his education, but boy, he sure had some street smarts. So, and there's all kind of examples that you can use. I'm too old to remember all these names. I can hardly remember my name. So these are just my opinions, and it's just one guy. I'm not speaking for anybody else. I just know this is a problem that, like the water, is going to become a bigger problem. And the people, let me see how to say this. We probably have more lawsuits. I don't know how factual this is. We probably have more lawsuits needing to be adjudicated than we have people. You might want to look that up. I don't know how you get the answer to that, but that's what I believe. So how does a country of 360 people that has, for the whole time they've been in existence, said the difference in us and everybody else in the world is we go by the rule of law? Well, that's become a crock. That's become a crock. I heard, I don't know which one, that there was a school somewhere. It might have been Pennsylvania. It might have been New York. It could have been South Dakota. I read it such in a hasty that I'm afraid the state didn't stick with me. But they're going back to board paddling. When they did away with home ec, when they did away with shop, not every school anymore has shop, and they did away with paddling, which meant they couldn't get any discipline in the, you can't talk to my kid and tell him he's wrong and that he shouldn't do that anymore. No, you can't talk to my kid like that. Well, he's not going to get talked to like at home either, but doesn't matter. You can't talk to him like that. But I'm not going to talk to him like that. I'm just his parent. I ain't got time to worry about him. You're supposed to be babysitting him. You're doing a poor job, school. And so what it does is it leads to judicial briefs, judicial cases that are so frivolous, but somebody got paid for it. Somebody got it on the docket. Somebody hired a jury to try it. All those people had to get paid. Biggest cost in America is the cost of the judicial system. Year in and year out. I started this podcast by telling you I don't know whether my facts are all right or whether my facts are all wrong. But there was at a time when that was a known entity. I don't know how it could be less than that today. The
People are starting to figure it out more and more.
Well,
slowly but surely. But there are.
I don't know that slowly is going to work this time. You see, I don't know. You know, I just, you know, it's, you don't know how many people in a big lawsuit where, you know, we're suing you for 800 billion. Well, we're counter suing you for 1 trillion. You know, they got so many ants running around trying to find out how to get hold of this and how to get this put in. And they don't care if it's illegal. Let's just get it in there. If they hear it, it'll stick with them. You know, it's like saying, erase that from proceedings. Forget you heard that. You think they're going to forget hearing that? This is an age-old situation that hasn't changed since I was born.
One thing that has changed is the abusive use of AI.
And do what now?
One thing that has changed is the abusive use of AI, and I think that we might have dived a little bit into it on one of our last podcasts, but it's prevalent to this scenario because someone can create a video using AI and get somebody else thrown in jail.
Well,
they are doing a lot of, and it looks realistic. They're doing a lot of, AI has evolved into something that can be used as a weapon now and not just a technology.
Yeah, it's called bullshit.
And it can ruin lives just as fast.
You think that these people with no consciences could care less about that? They don't care if they ruin your life.
No, they don't. They don't.
The more they can get in a day, the better.
But anyway, back to what you were saying, because that might be one of our next podcasts.
What now? What are you saying?
I said back to what you're saying.
Well, look, there needs to be a judiciary. But the judiciary has to be caring more about the law than caring more about what can they get out of the verdict that they need to, you know, go down the road. And that's what's been destroying the court system for years. I mean, there's, you know, I would say without hesitation that 99% of the judges in this country want to get it right and by constitutional law. I think a lot of them are put into a pressure situation because they're just people that think money and power is more important than getting the truth. And that should be bothering people. And, that's to me basically where we better end this, because I'm just going to be repeating myself.
Well,
but I certainly have enjoyed being with you.
But what about how money controls everything, and how
All right, so you're done with the judicial, and you want to go to money.
Yeah.
You need more than podcasts for money. Somewhere I'm not even a biblical person. I'm not even biblical, but I believe that somewhere in the good book is something that says money is the root of all evil.
Yeah.
Well, whoever said that knew what they were talking about, and I don't know who said that. But he needs, or she needs. Oh well, they didn't let women do stuff like that back then, did they?
Mm-mm.
Women had to be seen but not heard, and that went on for a long time too, till I think sometime in the 1890s. I'm not sure of that one either. I'm just.
No, it carried out into the it was the late 1890s that that was when they kind of abolished past that a little bit better.
Well, there are people that think having given the vote to women was the wrong thing to do. And I have said this publicly for many years. If the women would just find two candidates and be smart enough, because they're a lot smarter than men, if they'd come up with a good Republican and a good Democrat and run them as co-president and quit this president and vice president crap, all the women would have to do is go vote for these two women, and the men might as well go home. There is no way that men can outvote women. There are way more women than there are men. And I wish they would do that. Hell, I've been wanting them to do that for years. This is a great country. The people are what's messing it up. The concept of this country has never been equaled. The concept. So when you're talking about money, it's just.
Well,
that's why I said to you earlier in the podcast that there were rich people who have made a lot of strides in trying to help America go forward.
But money.
The robber barons, that's what they were called. And if you want to call them that, call them that. They stayed on Jekyll Island, which is 16 miles from my house. They made the Federal Reserve System work, which I didn't understand why they had a Federal Reserve System when I was growing up in my 5 to 20 years, because it just was so different than anybody else's. But it works pretty well. It works pretty well. But money is just not going to solve stuff, because the more money you spend, the more money you're going to have to spend down the road to help put back together the money that you originally spent.
Right. And money.
And it won't buy you love, money. Won't buy you love. You hadn't heard that expression?
Yeah, I have a bunch of times. But money controls us in the way that without it, it's really hard to get food. You can't get a place to stay in, and you end up struggling because uh, the essential things that you need, like clothing and clean to cleanse your body, those essential things aren't accessible as much to you or at all to you if you don't have money. So in that way, money controls you. But because without money, you barely can live your life.
Well, that's a point. That's a point. It's hard. I don't. That's a tough subject. I'm 80 years old. I live on $1,800 a month through Social Security. I have no retirement funds anywhere. I couldn't do that. You don't hear me bitching. Okay, I can't do all the stuff I want to do, but that's not somebody else's fault. That's my fault. I did what I did. Responsibility, you see, is has to go with the judicial system as well, because when someone does something and it's on camera, and you know you've got the gentleman or lady that did this, or you've had a lie detector test, and the lady and woman who took this flunked it. People are still fighting to get that inadmissible in court. And so by trying to sidestep all the laws, all it does is, in some instances, I don't know how many I don't know percentage-wise what it is, but it creates a lot of mistrials. They have to try it again. 3 or 4 times the amount of money ends up getting spent, and they're going to get it from you because they can't get it from anybody else. They can't get anything from me. I don't have a job. I worked up until I was 55 or whatever I was.
No,
I was older than that.
You worked up until you were 78.
Well, that's probably right.
So you've only been out of work for not even 2 years.
Well, I chose to be out of work.
I know, but you haven't been out of work for that long. You were working less than 2 years ago.
I guess I was one.
Yeah, your own place. You were the owner.
Okay, I'll go with you. The I remember my grandfather telling me something about the word responsible, and it's very important to me personally as an individual to be responsible, but only for my actions. I can't be responsible for yours. So he used to just, tell me that I had to be responsible. And with it came honor. And with it came, your word is dependable. And it came with You got to do the right thing. These are lost arts. I've even lost some of these arts. I don't know, I'm sitting here admitting it. I don't know. But I guarantee you, as a human, I've probably done 10 or 12 of each of those. I don't know. It's not relevant because I'm not a threat to anybody. I'm just enjoying the days that I have, and I play a lot of golf, and I've got a great golf group, and who I wouldn't trade for all the money ever. And money is not that important because, well, I'm going to get up and I'm going to show you something. I'll be right back.
He'll be right back.
These are my two newest purchases. Tom and Jerry, SpongeBob, and a Tom and Jerry. These are little jackets.
We'll show them the other sides, Papa. The backs.
And there's the back of them. And these were like $29.95 at City Trend. And this is my kind of fun that I have with the clothes that I have. And being on a limited budget, limited budget, I can't just buy everything I want, but I buy what I think is cool, if you will. And the reason that I'm bringing this up with you, I don't know what this has with the judiciary system, and I don't know what this has to do with money, except
that you spend.
I get to choose how I want to spend my money. And we do not get to choose how the government spends our money. They are in a hurry to get it so that they can, in a hurry,
to waste it,
pass something that we don't know what they passed.
Did I say my opinion?
Because you can't. I doubt you can name anybody that knows everything that they do during the day or nights or whatever they do.
Some people do, actually.
Well, that's good, but
especially
right
Pamela.
now they're not the power, the glory, and the coming of the Lord. And things are just they're going to heat up here, and I think it's going to be positive. I think that all this money talking about the guy that makes the Tesla,
Elon Musk, I think.
Yeah.
Well,
you're running a business.
There's been a lot of hate toward him, and a lot of
that's too bad.
Fires
I'm
started.
fixing to try to put this in common words. You run a business, whoever you are out there. You run a business. You got expenses. You got to eat. Got to have gas for your car. You got to have a car. Got to have a house. Got to have clothes on your back. You might want to send your kids to private school. All kind of stuff. Bathroom tissues, Kleenex, dishwasher detergent. All this kind of stuff. And you need that. And just like I just showed you, I went and bought something I don't need.
Well, it's clothes.
But I bought it anyway because I liked it. Well, Congress does the same thing. And they've gotten themselves into, I don't know, a 32 billion, 33 billion dollar deficit. And that's because we've been giving money to all of these countries who do not like us. Some of them do, most of them don't, and they keep coming back for more. It's called enabling. So now we got a government that's enabling everybody but us. And that's the United States. I do not mind paying taxes. I think it is an honorable thing to do. I need to do my part. I used to pay $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 a year in taxes. I didn't get mad about it. I was fortunate enough to have a good business that would allow me to do that. But the government, I have a son and nephews and
nieces
that work in the government. And for years I've heard them say, we don't need half the people we got up here. I have a son that works for Ford Motor Company. And they've gone AI a long time ago. But he worked at another facility where he was a supervisor. He was the youngest supervisor that they'd ever had. And he said that, people were lots of people were just sitting around doing crossword puzzles, making $25 an hour. Now, that's waste. And I believe that's what Mr. Musk is trying to do. I think the president wants to get some waste out of the government.
Yes, but you can't.
Well, it might be my job that they're going to take. I'm making this up. I'm the new guy on the block. I'm going to be the first one to go.
Yes, but you can't just go around firing everybody without having concrete evidence that this person is a waste. You can't just go around firing the good people that have worked their lives to get into the positions that they're in, without having any background checks or anything. Just going bonkers and firing everybody. I don't believe that is to be efficient at all. It's one thing to want to get rid of the people that aren't contributing or helping the economy, but to not take into account that you could be deleting the people that are is the issue that people are having with Musk and Trump, in my opinion, because they don't like the fact that he is
I think they're in the minority. I think the time has come when somebody who understands business started running this government like it is a business, because it is a business. And I think if you took a vote again today on that subject, and that was the question, are you okay with the DOGA thing? I still think it'd get more than 50%. It doesn't matter if it only gets 50% in one vote. It wins. It's not how much you win by, it's can you win what you're competing in. If you lose 29 games in a row, that gets old. If you win 29 games in a row, that gets old. So for this to be a situation, Governor Kemp, I believe I'm using facts here. I think the legislature has just voted to send every citizen in the state of Georgia $250 because they've got so much money in the kitty. Okay? we don't have a government that works that way. Most states in the United States are broke. Illinois, California. I'm not sure about Massachusetts. You know, I mean, I'm not sure of who all is broke, but there are states that are broke. States, I don't believe, can be broke. I don't think the constitutions of the states allows them to owe more money than they are taking in. I believe they have to spend exactly what their bill said they could spend. That ain't the case with the federal government. The one thing that they can do that helps them be able to do the things that they do is because they can print money. You can't print money. They'll get you for being a counterfeiter. They can print money. That's the difference.
That's true.
Well, it is. It is. So anyway, what else do you want to do tonight?
Well, maybe we'll maybe we'll say goodnight.
Well, I think we're leaving on a good note.
I think so too.
I hope that 2 or 3 of you will have seen this and might pass it on to some friends. We'd like to get up to 10 tonight, if at all possible. And we thank you for letting this old guy and this young guy speak to you. And I hope that you've enjoyed it. And if you haven't, write the comments on it.
Comments down below.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank y'all all for joining.